And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, with Let's Talk New York Sports. And I'm joined by the man who I always call upon when I talk New York sports, Mr. Keith Engle from TGI Sports Talk. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here as always. Back and better than ever, and certainly New York sports has got a lot going on with some. I'm sure we'll jump into the Knicks injury issues, the Yankees, and we got real baseball. That's always exciting, and I can't wait to chat it all up with you today.
Yeah, same here, Keith. I mean, before we get started, I would just want to encourage everyone to check out Keith's new interview what dropped last night. A fun time had by all. Look at you, Keith, rubbing shoulders with an ex-NFL quarterback.
A Jet quarterback, no less, and we hit it off very well. I was, usually I'm worried Jet quarterbacks will punch me in the face at some point. we didn't get to that point. We had a lot of fun. Matt was a lot of fun, and he was a really good player for those that remember that far back, like I do. And he was pretty candid about how he felt he was better than Richard Todd, who he battled in New York, and some other players that he played behind in his career, and he pretty much put the blame square on himself. So we had a lot of fun, but it was had its moments where he kind of in retrospect felt he cheated himself in his career. But we had a lot of fun, and we'll have Chuck Foreman next Thursday, hopefully. That interview, by the way, we didn't record last night because Chuck got a little confused and didn't make it. But he and I talked on the phone today, so we're going to do it Sunday morning and play it Thursday.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that. I know it's when we was arranging it, it was something that you was very much excited about making happen.
Yeah, Chuck Foreman. He was one of the best running backs of his time for 4, 5, 6 year span in the mid to late through the late '70s with the Vikings, and they went to Super Bowls 3 out of 4 years. Didn't win any of them, but he was one of the best players in the NFL at that point in time, and also a graduate of my favorite university, the University of Miami Hurricanes. So we talked a little bit about that today, and we'll certainly talk about it in the interview that everybody will see next Thursday.
Looking forward to it, and I've had the chance to check it out. How did Are You Serious go this morning? Did you win as normal, Keith?
Of course, Carlos is out there. We were pretty much on the same page with some stuff. We did get into a few things today. He insists. We all know, and I'm sure we'll talk about today. Anthony Volpe is up with the Yankees, adding some energy, adding this, a different dimension to this Yankee team, and he insists. Well, they should have done this 2 years ago. Well, he wasn't ready to play 2 years ago, so that's just Carlos. So we enjoyed. We had a good time, and we always do. We always part as friends. That's what I like about Carlos. Is I go at him pretty hard sometimes, and he takes it very well. So there was only a few of those little divergence. Tanner was on. I think Tanner was there for one of my implosions with with Carlos this morning, but they were fairly minor today.
Yep. So everyone, please check that out. I'm looking forward to checking it out myself later tonight. That will be my bedtime watching, if you will. So,
You'll have nightmares after watching that when you go to sleep.
um, so before we get started, I just want to encourage everyone to head over to TGR Sports Talk, both on YouTube and Facebook. If you head over there, drop Keith a follow. If you like Keith's content with me, you'll like his own content, but not just that. Keith's a very big part of what we do at Let's Talk Sports. So by supporting Keith, you're supporting myself. So please go and help him out.
Well, I appreciate that, and as I tell all my people, make sure you get there and as Dan says, ring the bell at on YouTube as well. So between the two of us, I think we've done complemented each other very well, and the two I don't know, programs. I don't even know what to call them anymore, right? They're not really programs because I've got about 6 programs, and so you've got about 60, which you're not doing them all right now. But I think we complement each other, and it's a great complement of people that you put together. So great job, and everybody get over to Let's Talk Sports as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. So as we get started, we may as well start with your Patriots. The draft is coming up. What I wanted to ask your opinion. We ain't really talked about this. What would you like to see done? And I'm seeing a lot of rumors about linebackers, and I think that's probably more. I know a lot of um fans would maybe like a wide receiver once you've paid Juju, but I don't see um Bill Belichick sanction a wide receiver in the first round, given what was his experiment the last few years went. So I think backer or a D tackle is, and you don't really need that. It's far more something what you'd address, but I'm not ruling out them trading back a bit either.
Well, he likes a lot of depth, and I want to say hi to Football Talk, who I have not had with us. I don't know if he's one of your followers or not,
Um,
but he's with
yeah.
us.
So I'll give Bo a shout out. He is Bo Football Talk with Bo. He is our Seattle guy, very good guy, a former semi-professional football player, and you. He's actually a very good follow, and you don't know how hard I looked for a Seattle guy, and Bo just fits everything we do. So great follow. Check out his content. Doing great things.
It's not amazing. You get a good program like Seattle. You can't find somebody, but the Jets, there's just people doing stuff right and left, for crying out loud. That was a little shot. Sorry, Dan. I'm probably uncalled for.
And
Anyway,
that's fine. Trust me. In regard to you, uh, absent of you, me and Tanner was saying it's amazing how many contributors we've got, and someone was in just had a dynasty. You can barely find any actual Patriot content creators. Obviously, I've got you, but
you know
Tanner
what?
was trying to do a draft last year, and you weren't available, and we literally couldn't pay someone to come on.
I wish I could have made that work for sure. But you know what? That shows you. Unfortunately, like every team, there's bandwagon jumpers. And listen, I'm going to be 63, as I say a lot. I became a fan in 1970 when I was 10 years old, and for the first 30 years of my life, at least, yeah, roughly 30 years of my life, there were no Patriot fans around. Me, a buddy of mine, and a teacher where I went to high school. That was it. And now there's thousands of them in the area where I am. So anyway, we digress. We're talking about the Patriots, where they're going to go. They're not going wide receiver, I agree. I think they still got great hopes for Thornton, who showed some promise last year when he wasn't hurt. I think they like what they saw there. Again, I'm not enamored with Juju Smith-Schuster, as you know, but it is what it is. And there's still some other things in play, I think, with the Patriots. I think it's going to be – he likes depth. Bill likes depth in the front seven. We all know that. He likes defensive tackles. He loves linebackers. I think they're going to address the offensive line as well, maybe first, before they do anything else. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a boring draft out of them. You're going to see a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of defensive linemen. He'll be looking for athletes later in the draft to play linebacker, some defensive backs for depth, obviously. And you'll see a wide receiver maybe late. You might even see a quarterback. Who knows? Unless, Lamar Jackson is serious and he wants to come to the Patriots, which is such a joke, by the way. Before we get off, I have to say one thing, and watch my vlog, which will play right around the time we end this show. I tell Asante Samuel to just shut up. Nobody cares what he's got to say about, to Lamar Jackson, to stay away from the Patriots because Bill Belichick is the devil. And they don't like to lose there. Did you read any of his comments, Dan? Because this guy, he was a good cornerback. He came here, he won 2 Super Bowls, and they helped develop him into a player who was able to leave the team and sign a really hefty free agent contract with the Eagles, where, by the way, he didn't help them win any Super Bowls. but he's complaining about the fact that everybody's happy when they lose, and if we lose and it's not pretty, the coaches get on you, and when you lose, everybody's down. And I'm like, well, should they be happy that they're losing, Asante? Just shut up. And that Lamar Jackson's not coming to New England #1. This is all a bunch of nonsense because they're not going to give up the bounty it would take to get him, and they're not going to pay him. So it's all a bunch of nonsense over nothing. But guys like Asante Samuel got to speak up, where they just ought to be quiet, because he'd be nothing without Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. There,
I do. I actually think he has another reason to thank the Patriots. A big part of his son's brand building in college was the name, and
good
would
point.
his name have been the same without him being at the Patriots that year? So that's another reason, and I think he should be concentrating on helping his son build his career up, because there's been some good, some bad. So look,
He's
if a
good.
team
He was a
likes
good player.
losing, show me a loser.
Right, I agree. I mean, that's what I go off on. If you watch a vlog, this is probably the most worked up I've been in a while on a vlog, because it just ticked me off. He's a good player, right? But what you're really telling me is you want to go for ice cream when you lose, and here's your trophy. Stop it. Good grief. My gosh.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I would agree with that. So,
So imagine what the
would be,
diatribe I just went on times about 100, and watch that for 10 minutes, and you'll probably be like, "What's wrong with this guy?"
can't wait to see it. I'm definitely going to check that out. So yeah, I'm intrigued by what they do. Before we move on, I want to, as we're talking Patriots, there'll be a little bit of Patriots on Patriots action in the week after Easter, so in a couple of weeks. There will be Mr. Keith Engle making an appearance on the Who's Got All the Answers, our charity game show in aid of leukemia UK against Mr. Scott Cope. So that's
Oh,
going to be interesting. I will warn you, Keith, as we talked off air. In the chat,
you
Scott
got a
seems
match
to know
with
every answer.
how do I not get like Carlos? How do I get stuck with Scott, who's going to kick my butt, for crying out loud? Anyway, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward.
Don't worry, because obviously I normally switch the questions, but for the last round, the bonus round, but that wouldn't work with the Patriots. I've got a little something to switch, a little surprise up my sleeve. So
It's just Jet trivia questions. That's just
you'll probably know it after a couple of years with the show with me. So
just ask us
um,
trivia questions about Jet offensive linemen for an hour.
so everyone, look out for that. This week, Rob Logan's coming on, facing Johnny Cruz. So looking forward to that. And we do have our announcement on that show as well in regard to an exciting partnership I've made. I'm going to tell Keith about after the show. So looking forward to that. So moving on to the New York Giants, their draft when I was doing the preparation for the show. That's an interesting thing, because whereas it was a rebuilding year, I think they've actually made some last year, as you know, was a big component on they have to fix this O-line. But
Mhm.
I actually think first round I would probably go receiver and maybe look to draft a guard in the second round or something, because tackle they're okay. It's actually the one position on the O line they seem to be headed in the right direction. So I'd add the playmaking receiver in the first round, and maybe a guard or centre in the second. What direction would you go into if you're the Giants in the draft, Keith?
Yeah, I think center is definitely a place that I think they need to concentrate. Maybe inside linebacker a little bit. I would have said tight end before they picked up Waller, and they still may draft a tight end. I don't know how early, but I think you can look for them to pick up some tight end depth here as well. Um, wide receiver they should be fine. I think after signing Lazard, I think they're in pretty good shape. I focus on the offensive line and the linebacking crew would be my
No,
two.
for the Giants, what
Oh, I'm on the jet.
direction
I'm on
would
the
you?
jet. Oh Jesus, I'm sorry. I did. You know what? I got the two teams mixed up. This is what happens when we go so late in the day. Apparently, um, I did because I did say Waller did sign with the with the Giants. So they do need. Let's go back. I was talking about the Giants, and I threw a Jet signing in there. So that is center is where I would go. I would go inside linebacker and tight end. Maybe cornerback too is where they need some help too. I mean, those are the positions I think, and probably everybody in the NFL will be looking for the same thing. But I think that's where the Giants are going to focus. The wide receiver, I think, is an obvious need, but I don't know if there's anybody really in the draft that they're going to key on. I think they're really happy, getting Slayton back, maybe Shepard being healthy. Who else did they bring in? Did they bring in a wide receiver that I'm missing in my head? Um, maybe I'm thinking just about Waller coming at tight end. I think he'll be a nice weapon for Daniel Jones, by the way. So that's where I can see the Giants kind of having to focus their draft on.
It's going to be interesting. So moving on to the Bills, not so much about the draft. For the Bills, do you think we said last year if they didn't reach expectations, would they be on a little bit of a hot seat? And we sort of said no, but maybe that pressure cramps up. Do you think that's changed? Do you think they need to have addressed a lot of their needs? Because I kind of feel like there'll start to be some outside noise of was Dable the one
Mm.
what was doing a lot of the work? Because I'm going to be honest, I was underwhelmed by the Bills last year, and I think everyone talks about the Jets, but the Dolphins have caught them up no end. So if I'm a Bills fan, I'm a little bit worried about this, and I'm just underwhelmed. I might be being a little bit harsh on them, but after seeing them several times this year, I just I was expecting more, and possibly that was because the media drove the narrative that they
Yeah.
was the only contender for the Super Bowl. So I don't know if some of it's that, but I just feel like there might start to be some outside noise if they don't reach their expectation this year.
No, I think that's fair to say, especially given the success Dable has had with the Giants and the struggles and the struggles of Bills and Josh Allen had the second half of the year. Was it his arm? Was it the coaching? I mean, I think questions will start to get asked, and especially as badly as they played in the playoffs against the Bengals, they were never in the game, and they're going. It would appear they're going backwards. A window of opportunity in the NFL can be pretty small, except for a handful of teams, right? The Patriots during their run, the Chiefs right now. You need to take advantage of every year, and the Bills have wasted now, in my mind, probably the last couple of years where they had at least the last couple, maybe 3 years, where they had an opportunity and they've kind of squandered it. And at some point, somebody's going to say maybe a change of voice is needed here, and McDermott may end up in trouble. And you're
I
right.
agree.
The division's getting better. The Jets are going to be better. The Dolphins are going to be better, assuming Tua can play. And the Patriots are a bit of a wild card. We don't know yet. If Bill O'Brien can come in there and fix Mac Jones' problem from last year, this is the best division in football, and the Bills could end up at the bottom of it. We don't know.
Yeah. The Patriots are so weird. We talked. On my Sunday show last week, I asked the question who was going to be the worst team in football, and we sort of said about the Patriots. They could very easily have that big upturn of Bill O'Brien actually having a functional offensive mind, or if it goes wrongly, could they be near that bottom? So that's going to be interesting. I think they're kind of boom or bust this year.
Well, and I kind of alluded to it before. I mean, again, the line between being good and being bad is very thin in the NFL these days, right? You saw it recently with the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, 2 years ago, for the first 11 games of the year, they looked like the best team in football. Ever since then, they've looked like one of the worst teams in football. So the line between success and failure is so small for most of these teams now, and the Patriots are one of them. As I said to people for years, when they were on a roll, I said, and I would be a little cocky. I said, I'm going to enjoy every minute of this because sooner or later we'll be just like everybody else. And that's where we are now. They could be very good or they could be very bad. And I can't tell you definitively which way they're going to go right now. So you're absolutely right.
I agree. Funny you mentioned the Cardinals there. Scott's convinced the Cardinals will be the worst team in football this
I
year, and I
would agree.
understand that because their quarterback situation.
Yeah. I think I do think that right now they have some of the worst personnel in the NFL, especially assuming that Hopkins is leaving. Um, they're in for big trouble, especially playing in that division. They're going to have a hard time. Assuming the Rams find a way to bounce back, 49ers are really good. I don't see how that team gets out of their doldrums here anytime soon.
I would agree. So the Jets. I wanted to ask you a couple of things. I'm convinced that Um, absent of if we see a draft day trade, the Jets are going, from a fan point of view, have a fairly boring draft because they're going to get meat and potato
Yeah.
type players, fill out this roster. Um, Center would seem to be a need, probably a tackle somewhere. And I think unless they bring a veteran guy in, they may need to draft two D tackles because at the moment, next to Brennan Williams, there's
Mhm.
Solomon Thomas, which he's a good locker room guy, but he's just a guy. And absent of that, it's guys what was kicked off our practice squad at certain points of the year. So I kind of feel like they can double dip there, probably add a safety. So there's not going to be wide receivers, running backs, because they're pretty much okay there. But look, if you're going to fill out this roster for them to reach their ceiling, that's what you need to do. So from a fan point of view, I'm not sure it's what I would love that draft, I'd just say. But
Well,
another thing I wanted to ask you a lot to go along with that is if you, I understand you can't make players come, but if you was them, would you have tried to convince Calais Campbell a little bit more with the lack of depth at D tackle? He seemed such an obvious guy to bring in. He had, I believe, Robert Sala's time with him at the Jaguars
mhm.
oversected somewhat as well. So I probably would have. I think they've got to bring a veteran guy in. You don't want two rookie D tackles, ideally.
No, to tackle the second part of that first, I think you're right. I think he would have been a perfect fit for this team, this defense, and he would have been a good guy in the locker room for them, and having some familiarity with Salah and how he likes to go about things would have been helpful. And I'm a little surprised maybe they didn't go a little harder. As you said, you're not going to make somebody come that doesn't want to come, but I can't believe he didn't have some interest in coming if they maybe made a little harder push for him. So I think I might have gone harder after him myself. And I think you're right about their draft. I think it's going to be, and again, that's as a fan, they'll all boo, right? All the Jet fans that are going to be there are going to be booing whoever they pick for the first couple of rounds because they are going to be drafting in the trenches. It's going to be offensive line help. It's going to be defensive line help. Like you said, maybe a cornerback later on in the draft, maybe in the middle of the draft, you may see them take a running back. Because again, they may have some concerns about Hall and how healthy he'll come back at least this first year, they might have some concerns there and might want to get a little deeper. Um, but you're in a good position where now you're drafting you know, not just best players because you do have a few needs to fill, needs to put you over the top. And assuming there's no reason to think that this Rodgers deal isn't going to get done before the draft. Now it looks like the Packers have stopped asking for that first pick in the first round this year, which they weren't going to get. I think this deal will get done now before the draft, and now it's going to be picking guys that are just going to be fill a need that's going to get them over the top, and I think they're very close. I know this Rodgers thing could go the bad and implode if it. But again, just like we just talked about with the again, it's going to be this thin line, right, Dan, where the drama that comes with him and how he handles the New York press. If he does all that well and can play well enough at 39 years old, which I don't have any doubt he can play well enough, he put this team either in the Super Bowl or it could go really badly and be, Brett Favre all over again or worse even. But I'm confident. This is a good. The Jets are in a good spot right now, I think. And they may end up being the favorite in that division next year and one of the favorites to make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC. They're ready to win with a quarterback. Their defense is so good right now.
I agree, and I'll be shocked if they need a young centre to come in, but I'd be shocked if they don't add Ben Jones from the Titans.
Yeah.
There's that connection. Both the O-line coach and the coordinator's got experience with him, so I would be shocked if that doesn't happen.
They
And
signed
it's
Mercedes
just
Lewis yet. I know that Rodgers really wanted Mercedes Lewis, who's like 47 years old and has caught 7 passes the last 10 years or something. But
so what I think will happen there is he will be the fourth guy on the roster, but also maybe act as the fullback because Hackett really likes fullbacks. They don't have one. So look, if Rodgers wants him as the fourth or even the third guy, he can have him as far as I'm
no,
concerned. Some fans are bent out of shape, but
I don't know what he is. Is he his manservant, or does he carry the special tea that he drinks so that just in case somebody thinks it's illegal? I don't know what his infatuation is with
my
Mercedes. But
my hunch is he's the guy in the locker room what basically says this is how we do it to the
no,
young
maybe
guys. We do it this and this. That's just my hunch. Obviously doesn't offer much to the playing stuff, but look, as you know with Tom Brady, some guys just like certain guys in the locker room, and look, it's the some fans are like, "Oh my God, do we really want to do this?" Look, if you want to start quarterback, sometimes you have to pander to their nuances, and no more so than Rodgers. So to me, if he wants Randall Cobb as a guy in that room and Mercedes Lewis, I don't really care. What's the alternative? Have Zach Wilson and be bottom of the division. So
yeah,
to me, who cares?
I agree. He may want Mercedes Lewis just so he's got somebody his own age to kind of hang around with.
And
So,
I will say this, I think the locker room does need that. I've said to you, one byproduct of having Adam Rodgers is where was some of it was warranted. That receiver room, and not just the receivers, the likes of Sauce Gardner got mighty chatty, and I don't mind them criticizing Wilson, but don't do it in public. It's the byproduct of having such a young team that there's maybe lack of discipline in that regard, and the likes of Lewis and Cobb coming in will say, "No, young buck, you may be in plan a few years' time, but I am the alpha in this room. We do it this way, or he's not going to throw the ball to you." So I like them adding some older players because they've got all the talent in the world with the likes of Garrett Wilson, but I think they just need to learn the nuances of a NFL locker room, and I think that got skipped a little. last year just because the average age was about, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but basically 22. But I think they need some older guys to show them how to do things.
No, every team needs that for sure. I mean, you need good locker room
Yeah,
guys, and if Rodgers can, I really, again, he needs some guys that he's comfortable with as well. I mean, he's the old guy in the room, but when you're coming into a place where I understand they're going to be looking at him in awe, most likely, but he does need some guys that he's comfortable with, and he can kind of blow off some steam too as well. So I think some of that is certainly warranted. And look at we can. He's not my favorite guy in the world, but he's earned some of this as well. So I'm fine with what they do.
I agree.
And as a
So
Patriots fan, I
moving on.
go sideways really early, by the way, but it's probably not going to.
Um, so moving on to baseball, opening day has been and gone, but starting with the New York Yankees, it seems like they're gonna answer to their one of their biggest problems outside of the concern over starting pitching, and that is young Floppy, who you alluded to earlier on. And this has nothing to do a lot of his baseball play. Stealing bases. We talked about this so often about the running between bases. There was a lack of aggressiveness last
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't talked about his game, but he is ultra aggressive. I thought it was Jackie Robinson out there for a minute. I pretty much know how you feel about this, given you talked about this a lot. How do
Yeah.
you feel about him this today?
I think while he wasn't out there hitting 2 home runs. I think this was a great debut for Volpe, and he got the second biggest ovation of anybody when they introduced players behind Aaron Judge. That shows you how excited the fan base is here, and I think that injection of energy from kids like Volpe and Peraza and Cabrera, who played left field yesterday, is going to help this team, and maybe it'll help overcome some of the flaws that we still have with Hicks and Donald still being major cogs in this offense, at least for now. I like the fact that they're going this direction. I like the way he handles himself as well. I've said this a couple of times, and I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. I love the way he's carrying himself, and he does remind me. Forget about the play in the field. I'm not talking about performance or what his career is going to look like, but he reminds me a lot of Derek Jeter, the way he carries himself on the field, and the way Jeter did it from the very beginning when he came up with the Yankees in '96. Well, the late '95, but '96 he played the entire year. And Aaron Judge, when he first came up, he reminds me a lot of those two guys. And I'm not saying that he's going to be anywhere close to those two players on the field, but I love the way he's carrying himself here and the energy that he's bringing to this lineup, into the locker room, the dugout, whatever else you want to say. And this stealing of bases and that aggressiveness is. There's too many nights where we watch this team, and if they weren't hitting home runs, it's like very stodgy approach to the game, and I think that's going to change. When you got a guy like this who, when the team needs a little bit of a burst, can kind of give it to you. It's going to be exciting to watch this kid develop. And I mean, if he has any kind of year at all, he's going to win the Rookie of the Year because, after all, he's a shortstop of the New York Yankees. So that carries some cachet all by itself. He doesn't have to have the best numbers.
It's interesting. I think probably knows to himself his hitting isn't quite there. So I think he come out and said, right, I'm gonna be ultra aggressive in other manners, and get the fan base over. Which, if
Yeah,
that is the case, I like that from him. I I know you said Carlos said he should have been out there 2 years ago. That would have been a nightmare. I think it has a
absolutely.
potential to be a nightmare even now. I spoke to someone what covered him last year, and he said to me he's got the talent to make it there, but even with a good spring training, the kid isn't ready. He has the right mentality, a winner's mentality, and when you need something special, he has that little special something. But ideally, if they didn't have some concerns in his position, you would want another year, maybe even two. So, and that's someone what is a big fan of his and watches. He watched every game he played last year. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, 2 years ago, it would have been you would have ruined him.
Oh, I agree. And look at, is he ready to come up here and hit 300 and hit 20 home runs? Probably not, but he doesn't have to. In this lineup, he doesn't have to. He's just got to, you got to make the plays in the field, and he's going to get a longer leash, right? He's going to have his struggles where he's up and down. He'll make mistakes in the field, which he didn't yesterday, but it's a long season. And he's going to get a longer leash from fans and the press than Kiner Falefa got. You saw what happened to him. He just fell apart as soon as he'd had a couple bad games, and it just snowballed because the fans got on him and the press got on him, and he just didn't know how to handle it. And that won't happen to Volpe, I don't believe, because he's going to get a longer leash, and he's just got to play within himself, and I think he'll be fine. Now, with all that said, he may not be the Yankees shortstop for very long because Peraza is a better fielder at shortstop than Volpe is. And if one of them is going to change positions, it's most likely going to be Volpe at some point.
Okay.
And I just think it was very, as far as what the Yankees were going to do with him this spring, as well as he played this spring, the Yankees could not send him out. I mean, don't think they could have had an answer to the fan base or the press about why they did it unless they were just trying to suppress his arbitration time or free agent time. So they had to really bring him forward. And look at, I don't know that Derek Jeter was ready to play 100% in 1996 either. We weren't sure. We found out pretty quick that he could play.
It's actually, I think some of the reasons why they put them in, apart from the need, is well, the fans are talking about these young players. They're not talking about what they did or didn't do. So
No, that's
that's
true.
a byproduct.
It does take some of the heat off the fact that you're still going to see Aaron Hicks in left field a lot and Josh Donaldson at third base. So hopefully not for long. But yes, I think he'll be fine. I think he may not be quite ready to excel at a major league level, but I think he will not be overwhelmed by the moment, and I think he'll do well enough to help this team.
Yep, I agree. So the New York Mets, what did you think of their start of I always thought they'd get off to a winning start. They're an interesting proposition. With buyer's remorse from last year, I was convinced it was a changed team, and I think last year just was a year too early. My hunch is that second year under Bucks, they'll probably have a better end to the season, but I'm not buying the Kool-Aid until I see a bit more of them. I've got buyer's remorse from last year, so I think they'll have a more successful outcome. But that being said, they need to stop meeting it up as many fans. So how do you feel about the Mets? Are you confident that they would win the division, for example, or do you feel that you need to see more answers to the questions first?
Oh, there needs to be, I think, a lot of questions. Buck's a great manager, but this team's still got some holes. I think Alonso's still really the only real home run hitter in the lineup. They didn't really help adding anything to that part of the lineup. They need people to stay healthy. If they stay healthy, they'll challenge the Braves. But the Braves, the problem with this question is it's not just about the Mets. The problem is the Braves. I think them and the Astros, and maybe even Seattle, have the best combination of starting pitching, bullpen, and everyday lineup in baseball. Nobody can touch them. The Mets are going to have trouble if Senga isn't. I still don't know what they're going to get in Senga. Carrasco is up and down. He's 36 years old. He's had his issues. Your two starting pitchers are 80 years old between the two of them. And Verlander's on the DL already. there's just so many questions about that. Will Robertson, and maybe some other people in a committee be able to replace Diaz sufficiently? Um, is Escobar going to be an up and down player like he was last year, or are we going to see? I think you're going to see Batty here, uh, probably before Memorial Day, and he may be the third baseman. I think he will be a guy who contributes to this team, but I don't see them beating out the Braves. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think both the teams will make the playoffs. I don't think the Mets win 100 games like they did last year, just because they're going to miss Diaz that much. And, again, I don't think they improved. I think the Braves did improve. They lost Dansby Swanson, but I think their bullpen is so good. Their starters are just going to be better. They got some. They might have the best starting pitching in baseball. I talked about this on my Major League Baseball update last week, and I went through all the starting staffs. And to me, the Braves, Seattle, and Houston stands out to me as the best starting staffs in baseball. And everybody else has got question marks. So I think they're going to have a hard time keeping up with the Braves this year. I do see them making the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to go much further than they did last year, just because the Braves are that good. San Diego's going to be good. I think it's going to be tough, and the matchups will matter. But Buck will keep them afloat. It's a good baseball team. There's too many holes. That DH position is still, Tommy Pham and Vogelback, ugly.
Yeah, it is. And look, it wasn't even just us. My baseball co-host is a big Braves fan, and he's an ex-professional baseball player, and he thought the Mets was going out to the
I'm
Braves,
shocked.
even with
Shocked with that. He's
yeah,
a big Braves fan. I mean, you look at these, and again, you don't play on paper. I get that, right? Their managers very good. Their pitching staff goes five deep. I mean, there's a couple guys that could win the Cy Young Award on that team this year. And the Mets, they got a couple guys too that have won a lot of Cy Young Awards. The problem is, they graduated a year behind me in high school, which isn't a good sign. And they're already breaking down with Verlander. Scherzer's going to miss some time. It's still a good baseball team. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel I'm really shocked. And look at if he played the game, then he may know it better than me what's going on there. But I think the Braves, assuming Acuna comes back and completely healthy, and they don't have to rely too much on the other Ozuna, who I don't understand why he's still on that team. But I think this team is far better at pretty much every position except maybe shortstop than the Mets.
what did we? So Keith, as we look to wrap up, what have you got? I assume you've got Sunday stream of consciousness. What have you got going on this week?
Well, we'll certainly look at what happens with tomorrow's Final Four games between the U. We got the U going all the way here at TGI Sports Talk. I can tell you, Miami against Connecticut in one of the semifinals, and San Diego against Florida Atlantic, which will be it's a very unlikely Final Four, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch those games tomorrow. We'll certainly look at the first weekend of baseball and what's been going on and recap some of the injuries. Guys are dropping right and left. It's, people are complaining about the WBC and guys getting hurt there. There's guys getting hurt every day. I mean, 3 starting pitchers went on the DL yesterday. So we'll talk about that, and we'll look a little bit at ahead to some of the football news and see where Aaron Rodgers is at that point in time. And it'll be all over the place, just like every stream of consciousness conversation is on a Sunday. So we'll have a lot of fun with that.
I love it. Everyone, be sure to check it out. And all what remains is for me to thank you, Keith, for joining me today.
Always happy, Dan. I'm so happy that we're back doing this on a regular basis, and you put up with my little outbursts here and there, and even my mental focus. I'm start talking about the Giants, and all of a sudden I'm talking about the Jets.
Trust me, I've been there, and yeah, I love shows together. So, and I also love your um outbursts, or however you phrase it.
I'm a
Part
very
of the
passionate
charm.
person.
Um,
And I don't know if I said,
so I
I know
want
you want to wrap it up, but I'll wrap it up. I have taken on Billy Packer. You don't know Billy Packer. He's a longtime college basketball analyst. He just passed away this 2 months ago. But he was very opinionated, as I am, and passionate. And he would go by this saying, and I've started doing it myself. I'm often wrong, but never in doubt. so, so that's kind of what I go by, and that's why my passion comes out so much.
I love that, and I can tell you this Carlos goes by that theory as well. So,
He's
um,
always wrong. No, he's always wrong. And I'm just kidding.
um, so thank you to everyone for joining us. Join me tomorrow morning where I'm going to be talking on the Dan Harris show with a new podcast which joined us recently, a Red Sox podcast. So everyone check
Ooh.
that out as I introduce them to the community. And yeah, until next time, let's talk sport fans. Thanks for watching.
Oh, I forgot I was in charge here. Have a great day, guys.